I think that's a good idea. Just talking? Well, what's the show about? It's about nothing. No story? No, forget the story. You gotta have a story. Who says you gotta have a story?
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
I'll tell you what it's worth. Not a damn thing. It's a waste of time.
Welcome to Frivolous Fandom with Mike and Kev. I'm Mike.
And I'm Kevrone Jones.
And we're going to get into some nerd stuff.
Weren't expecting that one, were you? That's because there was no point for me to call myself that because I am just Kevin Crossland. That is my name.
So there's no Jones?
No,
Okay.
only in my dreams.
Okay.
But there is a John.
There is a
There's
John.
a John!
So, welcome back to the Frivolous studio.
Yep.
Sir Jonicus.
Yeah?
You guys may remember John from the anime cast a couple weeks back. The thing is, John is not merely an anime aficionado.
He double
No.
dips, as it
He
were.
is the true Renaissance man, well-rounded individual. John, what else are you into besides anime?
Well, I really like Batman.
Hey! Who doesn't? Superman! But not just any Batman, we're talking some Batman comic books today,
Yep.
okay? Because movies and cartoons, that's derivative, okay? We read.
You take those words back. The animated series is
Right,
primo.
that's sacred, yeah.
It is.
Right.
It's like a delicacy for us.
Pretty
I
much.
know, right? Compared to what they have today.
Like, you know that one grandma that grew up in the old country and it's like a whiff of the food takes her back? The animated series is our childhood, bottled up in VHS form.
Right, you catch one whiff of that sweaty bat suit from the animated series, man, and you're just like, this is when Batman was Batman, okay?
The spandex was tight in that era.
And we're not even going to go into... Well, I guess we are going to go into Robin's outfit, because
Yeah.
that's the topic for tonight.
Pixie shoes.
Pixie shoes and...
Then Speedo.
It's a thong, let's be honest.
Which, I mean,
Speedo.
you know, if anybody hasn't seen the new movie, Son of Batman, spoiler alert, Damian is kind of blunt. I hope that's not a spoiler.
It's
but
wonderful.
Damian Wayne, one of the best lines of the whole movie, he's kind of looking through the Batcave and he sees the original Robin suit with the pixie shoes and the Speedo, and he goes, kind of effeminate, don't you think?
Yep.
Like, just like matter-of-factly. It's like, yes!
He's got all of Bruce Wayne's wit and none of the filter.
Yeah, I know, right? You know, he's totally just gruff and, like, to the point.
But yeah, so our topic tonight is we're gonna take all the Robins.
Robin.
Literally, all the Robins.
All of them.
All of them.
And we are going to grade them in a way. Talk about which ones are viable. Which ones we felt worked, which ones we buy, and which ones we don't.
Yeah, and, you know, for this one, we're going to try to remove our, sort of personal connection with these.
I make no promises.
Right, because I'm pretty sure, I don't remember Mike's favorite, actually, but I know me and John have differing favorites, so you'll probably be able to tell because we'll be like, this one's viable. No, this one's viable.
I'm actually Team Dick, but that's just because I'm...
Oh, yeah, Team Grayson.
Team Grayson, that's why we won't say...
WB, get on that movie.
I guess I should...
How long we gotta wait for the Grayson movie?
I guess I shouldn't say Team Dick. I am Team Grayson.
No, you're Team Dick. You own up to it. John, tell him what team he's on.
He's on Team Dick.
Yep, I was
Dick Grayson.
The one, the only, the great... Well, besides Moby,
the
only other great dick there is.
The flying dick?
Yeah, he was.
He was the flying dick.
Okay, we're done with the jokes.
We'll move on from that
Well,
joke.
off of that anyways, because Dick Grayson was an acrobat, you know, it kind of, proves the viability as to why Batman would choose him.
Okay, so real
World-class
quick.
athlete.
So we're going to look at this. We're going to have two criteria. One is feasibility of just the boy himself being able to perform sort of the duties of Batman, both in combat and in, his detective work, things like that. But we're also going to look at the viability in terms of Batman and would it make sense enough for him to bring a Robin on, like this particular person on as Robin. Because, for some of these Robins, as you'll find out, it would expose him way too much. It would make no sense for Batman to bring on some of them.
Yeah.
But, on other Robins, you could see it. So there are two criteria, sort of could they carry it out, and then would Batman go through with it. So we'll start with Dick Grayson, the original Robin.
The original Robin.
The original, the only Robin, if you ask some people.
The OR. The OR.
Man, I'm the OR. You think that's what, like, the slang they refer to each other? Like,
God, I
I'm
hope
the
not.
OR.
I'm the OR.
Yeah, well, I'm the only R that matters, okay? So yeah, we'll start with Dick. John, you were saying something, alluding to the first criteria.
Alright, well, so Dick Grayson, he's basically born into a family of acrobats. So, obviously he's agile, which, if Batman's thinking of, hey, I need a sidekick, this kid's able to get around in combat, he would be able to dodge blows, he won't be able to just get, like, knocked out and then whatever happens to him happens. And
get into hard to reach places.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's able to squeeze. He can, since they're usually traveling by rooftop, since he's an acrobat, he's already able to basically travel just as well as Batman.
Right. He knows how to break his fall. He knows how to, fall gracefully through the air.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an art to that.
Well,
He's already got the bravery. I mean, he's been swinging from the ceiling his whole life, so it's not like, swinging across the cityscape is going to faze him in any sort of way. You gotta figure he's pretty physical. I mean, he's been training since he was a boy.
Yeah.
So that already puts him against the grade.
Well, and with the world class athlete status he would have had to have achieved to be able to do the stunts at that age.
Right.
His muscular development. And see, acrobats, sometimes they go into gymnast territory where their exercises stunt their growth, but obviously didn't seem to happen with dear Richard.
Right.
And so it's kind of like a catch-22. You want them to be as strong as possible, but you don't also want to stunt their
growth. That's fair.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you think back to at least in our grade school, we had kids in 5th grade who were just utterly dominant, and by high school they didn't really do much.
Well, and
They're pretty short. I mean, I was a short kid, and then I just.
Then you hit a growth spurt. Thankfully.
Let's say we all know a kid. Our friend, well, I might as well not, I'm not going to name drop because our audience might not know, but we have a friend who was a gymnast in preschool when I met him.
Yeah.
And kid literally just walked around campus on his hands.
Like, no big deal.
Man's like 5'3" now, so
Right.
love you, man. You know who you are. But,
I'm sorry, man. You're no Dick Grayson, but one love.
But anyways,
You're also not a comic book.
So to reel it back, I guess my point is the explosiveness that a kid who, I mean, how old was he? 10 when he?
Yeah, 10 or, I
10
think
or
it
11.
varies, like 10 or 12.
So for somebody and that's the thing.
I kind of buy 12 more.
Yeah.
I like 12. I choose to believe 12.
Well, and boys are honestly, there's some liquid like status. Some of them are already starting to hit puberty, and so you get a little bit of strength, and you get the capability of actually causing damage to a goon.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certain developed 12-year-olds, if they got the jump, which Batman's whole thing is that he's stealthy.
Yeah.
I could see a 12-year-old kid hitting an unsuspecting fully grown man and knocking him out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially if he's using an eskrima stick.
Yeah, well, think about it, too. Like, Batman doesn't just run up and punch people from stealth. Mm-hmm. He uses gadgets, so obviously Robin would have access to this arsenal.
Right.
Exactly. Well, and in later retcons, he even uses taser equipment.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
They're non-lethal.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? Because, I mean, when did Dick Grayson become a character? The 40s?
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe he wasn't tasing people back then, understandably.
Well, I would say Robin was introduced originally, if I remember, if history serves, that because they wanted to make it more kid-friendly. Because comics were just starting to come under scrutiny.
Right.
And original Batman was a lot darker than even...
He used guns.
I mean, he killed a vampire like the first...
An episode.
Yeah, as
a book.
Yeah. Well, and so Robin's whole thing was, we need to make this definitely for kids, about kids, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then you have comic code homophobia things happening, and we're not going to go into that. But,
I personally don't buy that. I don't think there's evidence of it. Like, the whole... Because, the whole joke of... I mean, I get it. It's from the TV show, I think, is what it dates back to. And it was kind of queer by nature. Like, it was just awkward.
It was
like,
campy.
Yeah, it was campy,
Well,
exactly.
What's funny is they went after Batman when clearly Wonder Woman is all about bondage. But that is too, we're definitely going too far there.
Is that what the lasso truth is?
That's what the lasso.
She's powerful until she's restrained. Okay, we're not going any further there.
So, I think we can all agree on the first criteria in terms of physicality and
Big old check.
Big old check on the big dick. So going to the next criteria in terms of does it make sense for Batman to take on this partner without totally alienating himself, or not alienation is not the right word, but like totally exposing himself or putting that risk in play. Does that make sense for Batman with Dick Grayson? The whole thing with Dick was Batman. I think Batman was there that night, right?
Yeah,
he was there during the Flying Graysons when they were assassinated.
Right, so he's there that night when the Flying Graysons get assassinated, and he couldn't do anything as Batman, so he already sort of feels that debt, like, oh my goodness, like I could have done more. And then also, doubled on top of that, my parents died, and I know what he's going through. I want to be able to, like, counsel him. And
Things really click.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. He feels a bond already with the young Grayson.
Right.
And honestly, from the aspect of, okay, so Batman, it's not going to really expose him. No one's going to question why.
Well, I have
Bruce
a qualm
Wayne-
to that, but
yeah.
keep going.
No one's going to question. Oh, it's probably the coincidental factor.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I'll go into more, but...
No one's gonna think twice for Bruce Wayne going, I'll take this young man under my care. Because, I mean, they're like, aw.
Right.
Usually...
I mean, his whole family is already building up the Gotham. They're paying for a bunch of things.
They usually...
Right. It seems like something good guy Wayne Foundation does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and in the comics, they don't really play up, like in Nolan's universe, that Bruce Wayne is a total dipwad running around town, messing around. Like, Bruce Wayne's an upstanding philanthropist in the comics. So.
I kind of like the dipwad, though.
Oh, no, it totally works. It totally does. But
yeah.
Robin doesn't make sense in that case.
One of my... well,
yeah, I agree.
Right, because why would he adopt him? That's fair, which is why he's not in the Nolans. But one of my problems with, the whole Flying Grayson thing is, like, that would be front page news.
But not necessarily. It was a small time traveling circus. It's not. I mean, it's not Ringling Brothers. They were just kind of like the county circus. Derper.
Fair enough, and like.
Although
this is why
Bruce Wayne would make it in the news, though.
You're right. Bruce Wayne adopting him, and then all of a sudden Robin shows up.
Yeah.
And then a smart individual kind of couples that with like, okay, based on the gadgets Batman's
foreshadowing.
Right. Well, like based on the gadgets Batman uses, that already narrows him down to a certain percentage of the population, the 1% occupy.
But yes and no. See, I feel if somebody who's running around kicking butt and taking names with high-tech gadgets, you and I are not going to... I mean, if Batman did not exist in our collective minds, I don't think we'd go, it's a rich person.
Right.
It's someone funded by rich people.
That's true.
Because let's be honest, does Bill Gates go and do it? No. Right. Do the corrupt ExxonMobil executives ever go into Dubai?
Inc. Right.
Yeah, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
This is honestly a minor qualm. I just kind of want to bring it up because I don't want to just give Dick the big check right off the bat. But
he's got to work for it.
Yeah, he's going to work. He's going to earn what he gets. But like that's front page news, and then maybe somebody smart kind of narrows it down. But
foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Spoilers. Wait, nope, just foreshadowing. So, John, you made a good point though about. That's something that the Waynes and the comic continuity do. They're, Bruce is always involved with philanthropy. His parents, instilled in him.
There's, 3 major families. The Waynes were one of them.
I say Waynes, Cobblepot's, and what's the other last one?
The Thomases.
Did they expand that? Sorry, quick side note. Did they expand that for Court of Owls? Was it just 3 families, main families? Because they talk about it. I seem to remember there being
Court
more.
of Owls is New 52. So
yeah, right. It is totally new. Yeah.
And Dick's connected to that, too.
I think they expanded it.
I believe the 3 families in that are the Wayne, Cobblepots, and the Canes.
Because that's a totally new thing.
Because that's, it was, Bruce Wayne's mom, it was the Kane.
Okay.
That's right. They were the joining of the two dynasties, which is
Yeah,
half. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Anyways, for Batman fans, that's some hardcore, like, you're digging that. But we'll get back to it for the
Yeah.
people that just know Batman and Robin. So, I mean, unless you guys have any other qualms, the whole emotional connection definitely kind of seals it for me. I can see Batman taking him on and then just sort of being like, look, you have... And then, you know, when talking to Dick and seeing that you have this feeling now inside of you that you can't deny, where it's like, I have to make a difference now because I don't want this, like, to happen to anybody else.
Yeah, you need an outlet. You have the talent. You have the volatility that I had.
Right. I'm not just throwing you in a situation where you're totally unequipped. Like, obviously I'm going to train you, but you're already kind of inclined.
Well, and it facilitates that parent-child bond that becomes the glue that holds them together and causes problems later. So I love it. It's a believable dynamic.
Right.
Dick having to spread his wings and no pun intended.
And honestly, as we go, you know, when there's only the first Robin, if the first Robin and only Robin, it's not that ridiculous. It's when you get to, like, the sixth Robin that, like, more and more pieces start to be evident as like, clues.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, and
Effective.
Right.
well, and speaking of ill-chosen replacements...
So, you know, John, what exactly happens? I know... Because I know the animated series reason.
Yeah.
What was the comics reason that sort of prompted Dick Grayson to do his own thing? Was it just that he
Like,
felt...
to become Nightwing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time, like, Dick Grayson's, like, in college, or, like, he's off in a boarding school, and basically he feels like Batman doesn't feel that he's worthy to be an equal to him. Like, Batman doesn't see Dick Grayson as an equal.
Right.
So he's like, well, I want to be my own man. And so he breaks off
And he spent
ties,
time
and then
as
he
the
goes-
leader of the Teen Titans.
Right.
Up until this point, too. So it adds a whole other dynamic where Robin's like,
Right, he's
I've
like, he's
literally
already a
led
leader.
people.
He's a leader.
Yeah.
So I guess at this point,
But this
there's
is like,
no
this is
more
later in
training
life.
happen. Right.
Yeah.
There's no more training in terms of skill. I mean, obviously Batman's always going to be the best because we'll go into this later. None of the Robins quite grow up to the physique Batman has.
Yeah. No,
And none of them are ever quite as crazy as Batman either. Like, relentless.
Hey,
just-
when you're 200 and, like, what is it, 220?
yeah, he's like
230?
6'2", 220.
When
Like,
you're
perfect.
when you're that big and you're that explosive, you just get away with more stupidity.
Right.
You do.
He's literally the perfect combination of strength and speed.
That
Or
fine
power and
tuned
finesse.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean... obviously, no one's
like a
ever
truck,
gonna...
move like a Ferrari.
Until he's too old, no one will surpass Batman. So I guess in that way, that's probably... And plus, Batman taught him everything he knows, so he sees himself as a leader. But really, the training's complete at that point. They both just go silently about their business. Like, we were talking about this earlier when we were getting ready. Kind of the cool thing with Robin, because early on Robin, when they introduced him, is wham! Kapow!
Yeah.
And that's not it at all. It's like, how much more efficient can we be if we're both equally skilled and stealthy, and you take out that guy on that corner of the room, and I take out this guy at this corner of the room simultaneously?
Well, you get misdirection. You get, I mean, and there's nothing more frustrating than fighting two people at once when the two people are in sync.
Right.
It is the worst, from a self-defense standpoint, it is the most annoying drill in the world, because you can't do it. I mean,
Right.
low, high, or whatever, one person's intentionally trying to make you block so that they can
Some
hit you.
unblockable setup.
Yeah,
right,
It's a
like-
reference fighting game. Some unblockables.
Yeah.
Right. And, of course it's unblockable, because these guys, obviously Batman could never survive.
The psychological factor of, oh god, it's Batman. It's dark. They don't see them coming.
Right.
GG.
Right, is there two Batman?
Is it the Batmans now?
Is there
Christian Bale's becoming the Batmans?
plural?
Yeah. Plurals. This is scary. Yeah, because obviously Batman could never, ever work, but, let's just assume he can. Clearly he's thought of everything that he is setting up unblockables at this
Yeah,
point.
pretty much.
Because why would he go into these dangerous situations
Right.
unless he's got some ace up his sleeve? So, yeah, I basically see it as there's no literal training going on anymore. I mean, and he's a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
He has the skill set. He has the experience. So he sort of goes on to do his own thing, which is, and obviously, Nightwing's a boss. One of the few Robins I feel like that does well post Batman.
Yeah. He really does grow into his own, and he...
Well, he literally becomes his own man,
Yeah,
he set out
right.
to do.
Yeah. with some drama with the old guy.
Yeah,
Oh,
But-
yeah, definitely
but-
lots of drama. So, with that being said,
there's a bat family.
Yeah, right.
so now, I say at this point we're going to move on to some Bat Family. Because, you think about it, a Batman and one Robin, I mean, that's a partnership. That's not necessarily a family.
It's a gig.
It's a gig.
And, I mean, what happens when someone becomes their own man? Do you have another Robin? What do you do?
Yeah, right. And, I am
You put out job
personally-
applications. It's on Craigslist.
Right, yeah,
Wanted
let me
Robin.
Craigslist or Robin.
Wanted.
Call this toll-free number.
Wanted adolescent male willing to put himself in clearly abusive situations.
Adolescent male, badass, clear broken history and depression.
Psychological trauma, check. Vulnerable,
Must be psychologically traumatized.
vulnerable financial situation, check. Okay, we're not going to follow that to its logical conclusion.
Yeah, right. We could go on for that for way too long. So, I'm not necessarily one that thinks of Batman just immediately is like, next partner. I'm like 5 years older now. I'm slowing down.
Let's be honest.
I need somebody to carry half this load.
At this point, he's going, I'm never taking another partner again.
Right. I mean,
This is stupid.
at this point, he's like, okay, that one worked out. I trained him. He's doing good. That's great. But Batman's the guy that looks at the big picture and says, a million things could have gone wrong
Yeah.
with this.
He's the one who he micromanages, is up late at night, like, dang it, I need to take sleeping pills again. I keep thinking about this.
He's like, I did good because I'm the OB. I'm the original Batman, and I'm
But
a
a
beast.
billion things.
But a billion things could go wrong. So that's why I'm not a huge Batman needs a Robin guy, which that's another foreshadowing. But
Well, especially with the JLA appearing.
right, with all these other superheroes, there's obviously other people more capable of putting in harm's way.
Well, other than that, he's got community now. It's a whole other dynamic. He's got a support system, people to keep him in line.
Right.
you
Let's
know?
just that's a good point. So let's just say this: we're isolating. Let's just imagine Batman as only Batman.
Yeah,
He's the only
fair
guy
enough.
doing this stuff. So the next in line, though, the next of the Robins. I'm not a big Bat Family guy, but clearly he takes on more Robins, as the comics would show. John, who's the next Robin?
It is actually Jason Todd, who is, he's kind of a scumbag.
Yeah.
Street rat.
I was gonna say
You like Aladdin? You might like Jason Todd.
Yeah.
he is a street rat, born and raised. He's also, according to Comic Vine's main synopsis of Jason Todd, Batman's greatest failure, and I know what that means because he's the Robin who died. Spoilers. But I think he's Batman's greatest failure because, like you were saying, he's a scumbag. That's why he's Batman's greatest
I
failure.
honestly, this is part of the checklist. I don't think he should have been Robin at all.
Whoa, John, that doesn't fall into any criteria, even though I wholeheartedly agree.
But
So,
listen,
let's start with the first criteria. Could Jason Todd, both physically and just sort of in terms of his aptitude, what is his skill set bred for? Could he handle being Robin?
See, it's a split yes and no answer for me. Can he fight? Yes.
Yeah,
Can he do
definitely.
it without resorting to dirty and lethal tactics? No.
That's the problem too.
Yeah.
He literally carved up the people he's against, and Batman had to keep him from doing that because of how he is, how he was.
It's like a feral ferocity. He grew up on the street. It's
Right.
fight or flight. It's drilled into him. In years of Batman's conditioning didn't break him of it. And he's not an acrobat. He's not a world-class
Right, he-
athlete.
Right.
He's just some random kid that was stealing tires off the Batmobile.
Right.
And,
So he was ballsy. That's why Batman
Well,
grabbed
yeah,
him. He's
because
ballsy.
let's relate this back for the Arkham video game fans. He could oh, now I'm blanking. What do they call it when Batman? The free flow. He's got the free flow
flow.
combat. Not really, because he's dirty, but I mean, he's got some free
Oh,
flow
no,
combat.
it's probably even more flowy.
right.
Blood's flowing. Everything's flowing great.
Yeah, right. Things are flowing.
No,
But
no,
does he have the Silent Night aspect down?
Probably not.
Robin light on his toes.
he
quick.
has to have the sun because he was stealing wheels off the Batmobile.
True.
He has to be. He's obviously stealthy.
Well, see, the difference, though, is whereas Robin has Dick Grayson had the finesse to incapacitate without causing undue damage. Batman had the brute strength coupled with the finesse.
Right.
Jason literally has to go for your eyeballs. Jason has to hit you in the balls. Jason has to, put you near to the verge of death.
Right.
Well, no, because he was still, he knew when to go in to take the. He probably might have been like scoping it out, waiting like, oh, this car's parked here. I'll wait till the driver's gone. I'll wait a couple times. If he's not back here within 5 minutes, I know for a fact that I have the ability to take this, and I'll have the time to get it.
So when he doesn't have when he doesn't have an ability, he makes up for in reasoning.
Right.
But it's animalistic, and it's hard to control.
Right.
So, all right. You know what? I kind of wasn't giving him the check in the first criteria, but
see, I put a check with an asterisk.
I think he is actually capable of being Robin, but not a
good Robin.
Yeah, not like a good-hearted Robin.
Okay, so here you go.
He's getting the job done. He's just not doing it with the ethics committee being all for it.
Right.
Well, look at it this way. So, capable of being Robin physically, yes. Was he a good Robin? Obviously, the answer is no. And herein lies where my big non-check comes in. Would it make sense for Batman to pull in this kid?
Resounding no.
And it's we'll get into it, but definitely resounding no. So, you think about it with Dick Grayson, the whole parents dying thing, and the way John, kind of laid it out, the whole PR thing. I'm just adopting a kid. This looks good on my company. This looks good on me. I'm a good guy helping Gotham. Just caring for its citizens, pulling them in. Whereas, Jason Todd, I guess, is nice because it's hush-hush. It's just some kid on the streets. He could probably adopt him a lot more easily without the media knowing. But just because you see a kid stealing your hubcap, I don't see that same emotional connection. Obviously, he's going to feel for him because he's like, okay, this kid's in a bad situation.
Well, and Batman comes out and says to Alfred, he's like, I have a feeling if I didn't take him in to be Robin, I'd be taking him into the police station. Which, fair enough. But the problem is, how many other boys has he bumped into where that's the case?
Right.
And furthermore, kids, it's not even that he's a bad person because he's stealing cars. He's probably in a situation where he can't avoid it.
No, he definitely is.
Yeah.
It goes into that in the comics, as to why he's in this situation. It's all about Two-Face.
Yeah. Well, but that sets up I firmly believe that people are innately programmed to go back to where they were formed. And he was formed in the thick of it. So you can't even get angry at him for going...
Right, he's doing what it takes to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
He's Darwin. He's walking, talking Darwinism. It's
one of those things where I think Batman looks at Jason Todd and feels it, and then instead of going, I need to help this boy, he goes, this is why I fight. This is why I do what I do for Gotham.
And if you notice, that is the problem. That's the issue. Because that feeds... Jason Todd's sarcastic. He was not a fan favorite. Little known fact. Well, the fans voted to, spoiler, kill him.
Right. Well, real quick, just real quick on the whole thing of doesn't make sense for Batman. When he looks at Dick Grayson, he sees a world-class athlete, and he also sees a discipline. He's grown up with discipline in terms of physically training and also practicing with his parents and the strict regimen. You see a random kid on the street who's had no, mentors, no sort of strong character examples in his life. You don't see that. That's such a risk for Batman. I feel that's a big thing with Dick, is he looks at the original Robin and says, this makes sense. He knows I could groom him because he already knows what it's like to undergo training and to undergo a steady hand and, that discipline.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because... Jason Todd, he was completely undisciplined. He was just literally a random kid off the street taking hubcaps. In defense of Dick Grayson, he was going through training already. So
Right.
Well, and
so I where were you going? The fans voted to kill him off. Obviously,
he was sarcastic. He was snarky, but not in a funny way. It was he was annoying, and he was even getting on Batman's nerves, and he was cocky.
Right.
And honestly. The one thing you can't be in this, fictional and completely unrealistic business of kicking butt with bare hands against shooting criminals is you can't be arrogant. Because honestly, it was Robin's arrogance that got him killed. Mm-hmm. It was.
I'm not exactly sure how it's... my biggest reference for this is Under the Red Hood, the movie, which takes place where he's already in Joker's.
Or he's kidnapped by Joker.
Right. So
Yeah.
what led to that?
So in the comic book, if I remember correctly, a girl, the Joker basically sets Robin up. He's like, okay, I'm gonna wait until one of my goons sees Robin off by himself. I'm gonna bait and switch. You're gonna save the damsel in distress situation.
Okay.
Something where clearly Robin should have
Realize it's a trap.
Well, that's the thing. Robin should have understood. I don't know who is involved at this point. I don't know. There's not enough recon. Because honestly, you have to imagine Bruce Wayne has told Jason Todd in the cave, listen, if you don't have a situation report,
And I don't tell you what
yeah,
to do.
don't go in by yourself. And so Robin does. The Joker springs a trap on him and then beats him to death with a crowbar in a very painful fashion.
Right.
Well, the funny thing too, though, he wasn't actually just like talking to some girl. He was looking for his mother. He learned that like his mother isn't who he. So Catherine Todd is supposed to be his mother, right? He learns that his mother actually starts with an S, which isn't in Catherine. There's no S in there, and so
He is the world's greatest detective junior.
But so at this point in time, he's extremely reckless. He basically would just like go in and go ham.
Right.
So
He basically thinks he's indestructible because
Right.
Batman's covering
So he
his
just-
back the whole time.
he
Well, then that
disobeys
gets brought up.
Batman's orders, and that's basically what ultimately leads to his downfall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we'll touch on this briefly because this is not
It's not
strictly
part of it.
Robin, but there is a bright side in terms of Jason Todd, who comes back. That's why I say he's Batman's greatest failure, not because he died, because they totally bring him back in the Lazarus Pit. He's Batman's greatest failure because he's clearly one of the worst Robins. But, he comes back as Red Hood and gets a little bit of some redeeming qualities because I enjoyed the Red Hood movie. I like that character.
Well, he sees he has a diametrically opposed view of how to deal with crime, how to deal with wrongdoing. And I'll be honest, he fits a niche in what I think would actually more work in real life.
He's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he says to Batman, I get it, you don't want to kill, but you look at all the damage the Joker's caused.
Yeah, sometimes you need to.
Yeah, and you tell me that it is justified to keep him alive.
Well, I love the phrase from the Red Hood. He's like, "I forgive you for letting me die, but why in God's name is this guy still breathing?"
Right, yeah. Yeah, I get that, but why didn't you end him on the spot? Clearly you've given him multiple chances, and every time he's gonna wreak mayhem.
Yeah. Well, he's like, and you know what? Had he killed you, nothing. And so it sadly, it's just it's a fundamental lack of paradigm viewing,
Right.
and they weren't compatible.
Well, and, John, if I'm correct, eventually he gets over his daddy issues, so to speak, and kind of does his own thing with his own brand of justice.
Involving pistols.
Once he's there's his two friends.
Which I do enjoy the whole relationship with Batman and sort of how that plays out, and I accept Red Hood now. When he pops up in some storylines, I enjoy his presence, which is something to say, especially considering he was a horrible Robin. I don't want to say the worst Robin. He's one of them though, up there.
He was close.
For sure. So that was number 2. So he dies. And, Batman is madly torn up about it, which, I mean, in a way, makes a big obstacle, in my opinion, in terms of, would he take another Robin? But they play it off really well. The next Robin, John, who is the next Robin?
Well, that would be Tim Drake.
Tim Drake, a.k.a., just, because this doesn't matter, my favorite of the Robins.
The true successor to Batman.
Mm-hmm. The reason I enjoy Tim Drake is because, let's start with my second criteria first. Does it make sense for Batman to take on Robin? Because the whole thing with Tim Drake was that he figures out Batman's identity. And one of the fun things about this, he, and I kind of like this, at first, I didn't actually know this until recently, until we were kind of researching for this, but a big part of him putting this thing together is that he goes to the Flying Grayson's show at the circus, and he gets to meet Dick Grayson just because, he's a fan. They do cool stuff.
Yeah.
He's a kid. I think he was 9 at the time or something like that. He meets with Dick Grayson and is just like, and like doughy eyed and all that, and witnesses the acrobat's parents being assassinated. And then it's a couple years later that he sort of puts it all together with, then Bruce Wayne adopting Dick.
Well, Batman's title is the world's greatest detective too, and
Right.
Tim Drake, basically he
Out-detectives him.
yeah, he becomes a detective.
Right, and I like it because it's not just out of the blue. I kind of like that little caveat. Can I say it? Caveat, where he meets Dick that night, because I think that would make sense in terms of like a big key of him putting it together. And so it's later on, kind of when Dick Grayson. Let's see, we have it up here. Is it when Dick Grayson leaves and he approaches Dick first?
Mm-hmm.
Because after Jason Todd dies, Batman's like really broken up about it because it's his greatest failure, and he realized he made a huge mistake.
Well, and Batman even gets to the point where he almost beats a man to death.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he comes really close, and it's just, there's a lot of bad press with it, and
is Batman like in control? Kind of a thing. Like, is he necessary at this point, or is he just another villain?
Some jerkwad gets his neck broken in a scuffle, whatever. He asked for it. 7 this week.
Right.
That's a pattern.
Right. So is he like necessary at this point if he's just wreaking more havoc?
Yeah.
And he is. So, Tim approaches who is Dick, who's now Nightwing, and says, "Look, like, clearly Batman's in bad shape.
Mm.
You know him better than anybody, and well, I should say, first of all, he put that together because he knew Dick. And it says, look, I know who you are, so don't freak out, but here's my honest opinion. Batman needs you because he's going through some stuff right now."
Mm-hmm.
And
Dick's like, yeah, you don't know our dynamic.
Yeah, right. Like, you don't.
Right, because at this point, Dick's like, I don't want to deal with my father, because like, Batman really is his father,
Mm-hmm.
like.
More than any of the Robins, I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He's definitely Dick's father.
Except for the one guy who is his biological
Oh,
son.
touche. Foreshadowing.
Which leads to resentment between the two, but we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
Right. That's but worthy of note. Yeah, so, Tim's like, look, you should go back and be his Robin.
Right,
And
Batman
then
needs one.
Dick's like
Like
all
hell.
right, look, I will. There's no denying what you're saying, and like I am worried about Bruce too. I'll do it, but he needs to. I'll go back as Nightwing, and he needs to accept that we're even partners.
Yeah,
in this,
which sadly wasn't going.
And then Tim is like, that's not like I already know that's not gonna fly. So he goes to Alfred first because he knows if he approaches Batman at this point, even with the knowledge of, like, you are Bruce Wayne, Batman's probably not going to take that well and just write him off. So he goes Alfred first. And, like, then Alfred kind of makes the introduction, like, look,
if you want,
you're probably going to be pissed about this, but my hands are tied. Like, he knows who you are.
This is
not
not
my
David
fault.
Kane voice.
Yeah, right.
Hey, the
sorry,
quickest
Master
way.
Bruce.
The quickest way.
It's actually your fault when you stop and think about it. It's actually your fault. I told you not to take a second Robin. And what did you do? You ignored me, and you took a second Robin. What he do? What he do, Master Bruce? He did. I don't know why
he went and got himself beat by a
he
crowbar.
went and got killed by a crowbar, Master Bruce. I looked at you in the eyes. and
How
I said,
undignified.
that was not dignified, Master Bruce.
Well, hey, the quickest way to a Batman's heart is through a Pennyworth. Let's be honest. That's
Right. Bruce basically goes, all right, Alfred's giving this guy a time of day. His hands are tied. Okay, I'll listen. And that's when he basically, like, says, look, I know who you are. I know who Robin is. I know the whole situation. I pieced it together. Take me on as your new Robin. And so this gets, and then, roundabout way, back to the second criteria, Batman looks at this, and it's kind of the opposite of Dick Grayson, where he looked at Dick and said, look, he has all the physical tools and all the
I just got to train his mind.
I just have to groom his mind to become the detective that he needs to be. He looks at Tim Drake and says, oh my goodness, this is, we didn't preface this. This is about 4 years later, does it say? I think it was about...
It's 4 years later
after he witnesses the death of the Flying Graysons. Yeah. So, I mean, Dick's a little bit older now. He comes to Batman, and Batman says, look, this kid's got all the mental tools. he's got the natural aptitude towards, critically thinking about things and putting things together.
He sees the connections. He sees the big picture, and still grasps the details.
Right.
Which honestly, as corny as Sherlock Holmes, the new Robert Downey movies, that whole zooming from his perspective, it's kind of like that. And similar for patient assessment. Anywhere where you're trying to solve a puzzle,
right?
You got to have the zoom. And you gotta have zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in.
Well, I like the way you put that, because honestly, maybe Tim's like some kid with scoliosis that clearly can't physically keep it together. Let's just assume he has some physical tools. That mind has to help you in combat.
It does. And again, I hate to bring it back to the new Sherlock Holmes movies, but the way they deal with combat, where he's discombobulate, and he's choreographing his fight before it happens. I can see that happening. But where I think that's mostly Hollywood magic, slightly BS. Your brain, you form it. You do
right. You're kind of going on animal instincts to an extent.
You have time to formulate strategies, but the intellect comes when you develop your muscle memory and train.
Because these guys do this, let's assume, every night or every other night if they rest ever.
Well, it's more I feel like he can keep calm in combat situations. He's not in panic mode. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. No, he can completely assess a situation, and he's able to react upon what's going on.
And he'll notice the details.
Because he kind of already assumed, when I do this guy could do these 3 things. Let me be ready for each of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I ask you this: what's the difference between you and I fighting on a wrestling mat versus us fighting in this apartment?
There's a lot less variables.
Yeah, we have chairs. There are bottles on the table. Just look around the room. There's literally a Leatherman with a knife on my desk right now. It's a totally different. And think about how varied that guy's fighting grounds are. Always. Right. So you could argue it's a toss-up. I don't know which one's more important: the natural athletic ability
or the mind.
I'm tempted to say athletic, because there are just some things I can beat into you enough. Oh, that sounds bad. I can drill into you enough muscle memory to overcome a mind deficit.
Right.
Some people just can't fight.
Yeah, that's fair. Because if you have the natural hand-eye coordination and spatial recognition, you can, like you said, Batman's smart enough that he's look, just memorize this.
And let's be honest, we have all met some really stupid people who are unbelievably good at a athletic or a physical activity. They just grasp it.
Right.
They can't read word crap.
You feel it. You do feel it to an extent.
What is it? They can't read or understand things, but yet they understand complex plays or complex theory for a martial art or for a sport or for, running strategies or, So I don't know. What's more important?
So that's why, unless you guys disagree, I'll give Batman the check in terms of, would he take him on?
I think he would. Yeah. Why wouldn't he? Batman's the world's greatest detective. If he has a protege that is also going to be a really good detective, why wouldn't he take him on?
Right. And Tim Drake is nobody. This won't make headlines. Once again, like you said, this is just...
He doesn't adopt him too at first.
He doesn't? Okay.
Because Tim Drake lives with the Drake family, which is her parents.
That's true.
And so, he's... So it's basically just another Robin.
That's actually one of the things I don't like.
Really?
Well, because, so like you said, he's just living with his parents and kind of do this on the side, and then at one point, his parents get kidnapped and sort of killed in the kerfuffle of, Batman trying to rescue them and stuff. The reason I don't like it is because it gives... I feel like they did it, to fit in with, what they'd been doing. You need some tragedy.
You need something terrible.
Something bad needs to
happen. See, I like the dynamic. Drake sneaking in at 2 a.m, crap, I don't want to wake them up.
Right. Well, I like it. It's kind of like what they did with, Terry McGinnis later on.
Are you partying again? Yeah.
Yeah, I was partying hard. I was raging. I don't know. It's hard. It's one of those things where it's I hate it, but I can't think of what they should have done.
Yeah.
Because I get it. He can't have parents forever. It's just going to be clear.
I just think it works to Tim's advantage to where, and Batman's, because he's not adopting someone new, so it kind of cancels out the whole...
See, absentee parents...
Bruce Wayne adopts third kid, third Robin pops
Exactly.
Up. Ooh.
Exactly. It negates that whole factor, and so...
Why didn't they just do absentee parents then? That would have made perfect sense.
Like maybe one of them like skipped town. Like the mother had to raise him by himself.
Yeah, something like that. Where either because A, they're not paying attention, or B, because they don't have time to pay attention. They won't notice him being gone. And yes, he's brilliant, which means he can BS his classes, ace them.
I was gonna say,
his responsibilities are taken care of.
And he's brilliant, so when he goes, I'm president of the chess club, and I'm student council president,
They don't
and
question
I'm, yeah.
And then he probably manages a way to scam it into his actual transcript somehow. So, I mean, he's hacked into...
He hacks the mainframe. Batman, for Pete's sake, after a while, hacks it into his mainframe. So, on the mind, so that ties us into what's the first criteria. Will he physically be... John, he's got random parents, so I don't think his genetics are...
Yeah, his genetics aren't, like maximum, like, Bruce Wayne genetics.
Like, right.
They're not the top of the line, they're not bred to succeed.
Like a prodigy kind of a thing.
But he had to be... and granted, Batman's stipulation was, fine, you got the brains, prove to me that you're not going to die on me.
Right.
Well, the thing is, he undergoes training. He gets training from...
But you have to argue,
renowned assassin.
He's got to be top 75% of the bell curve naturally to even get through that training.
Well, think about his intelligence though, because he knows how, because of how smart he is. He knows how he can use his body to, if he's absorbing information, he can absorb it extremely easily because of how intelligent he is.
True, right. but there's other limiting factors. In terms of actual hand-eye coordination and reaction time, there's about a 0.4% differential you can train. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, as much as you can get. That's just what it is. Now, the differential is not that crazy. I mean, there's those.
If his brain is processing that fast,
then you
would think he's obviously able to have that hand-eye coordination.
Right.
Yeah, and he can't
especially,
image it. He can't be 5'1".
Through repetition.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about this, Batman immediately sees the potential in Tim and says, "Look, I think you could obviously you could maybe do this, but I'm not just going to throw you out there because I learned my lesson, sort of."
Last time that didn't go so well.
Yeah, right. And so Tim has to go through some pretty strenuous physical and mental sculpting, so to speak, before he is allowed to go out on a mission as Robin.
Well, if you notice, Batman's
John was saying, if he could absorb this information, you got to think. If his mind is set to this, and Bruce is teaching him, okay, you got to do this workout. Mm-hmm. A, you got to get stronger. B, you got to rep these techniques. You'd figure he could pick this up if he's committed. And that's where the murdering of his parents kind of comes in. The kidnap and murder of his parents come in. Yeah. I guess in a way, I feel like it's kind of cliche, but I guess if that happens, that fuels the fire.
It's how you say motivation.
Motivation.
Mickey. And so...
John shrugs shoulders, rolls eyes. Gives up on our cast. No.
Well, and I love how Batman, sends him to a third party. A non-biased third party. He's like, I'm not going to have any part of certifying you. I'm going to send you someone I know knows what the hell they're talking about. That way I'm not biased in having my ego of being the best teacher to get involved.
Right.
And so when Lady Shiva delivers a fully formed...
physically formed.
Yeah, a Tim Drake, a fully trained honed, and goes, thumbs up, Batman's like, whew, alright, come on, kid.
Yeah,
let's see what you got.
Right.
It's pretty cool, too, though. Just a small tidbit. When Shiva's training him, she's like, pick whatever weapon you want, and he ends up picking a bow staff. So Tim Drake's main weapon of choice is a bow staff.
Right. And, that kind of carries into, since we went into Jason Todd's extra persona as Red Hood a little bit, let's go just real quick. Red, a lot of red. Let's go into the extra bonus persona, the fun time persona of Tim Drake, which is Red Robin, and, utilizing that bow staff in large part. John, you were kind of telling us forecasts about his brutality.
Well, he kind of becomes more because as Robin, he's a little more tame, but as he becomes Red Robin, and then he's more like Batman to where when he wants answers, he wants answers. He will beat you over the head with his staff until he gets what he wants. Right. Because he's on a mission. He's looking for what he wants, and
he will do
off limits. And if he knows you can literally be the answer to what he needs to know, he will get it.
You're right.
Which is awesome, and I like that, because he wasn't more Team Robin, because he's the ultimate protege.
Mm-hmm.
He understands, like, Batman obviously knows what he's doing. I think he's the one Robin who always had
It's
that
good.
sort of perspective to
Good
where...
cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Batman's been doing this forever. He's not going to lead me astray. Let me just do what he tells me until I get on my own feet. And that's why he's that much more prepared as Red Robin. And
Right.
like you're saying, he's equally determined. Like, he's not afraid to hurt some people.
Yeah,
Right.
Tim Drake is more along the lines of knowing and assessing the situation. Because Dick Grayson, he was more carefree as Robin, but when
Right.
Tim Drake...
He takes some chances.
Right. When Tim Drake pulls up the mantle, he's more of a... He'll plan everything out. So he's
We
more of
planned
a-
it this way, and we're going to execute it this
Exactly,
way.
yeah. He stays and he sticks to the plan.
Right. And, I really like how they transfer that brutality sort of in feel to the Arkham games. With Arkham City, they had the expansion Harley's... what was it called? Harley's Revenge. Harley's Revenge, yeah. The Batman's captured for a large part of that, and you play as Tim Drake Robin, and you get to use his bow staff, and you just feel hardcore, and he's brutal, like his takedowns and stuff.
They
just
hit
like-
hard.
Yeah,
He's
you feel it.
he's
like,
handing out free butt whoopings.
yeah,
And it's nice too, because it does going off that DLC as Tim Drake. It shows how Robin can use his gadgets because he's not just using the bow staff. He has gadgets
Right.
at his disposal.
Right. Oh, one of my absolute favorite things to do. Where does the shield come from? I'm not familiar. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The shield is actually made for the game.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I actually I don't know.
It's
Assuming
pretty
we
cool,
have
though.
Batman's gadgets where shield can come out of nothing and be compact, I like it. Because if he's pinned down by gunfire, let's just say for some reason,
Smoke bombs don't actually stop the bullets.
yeah, right.
surprisingly.
Well, think
Yeah,
of it,
right.
too.
Why would you not throw a smoke bomb and cover your back with a shield while you're running? Yeah. So I like that because one of my favorite things to do is just run up to a goon by if you'd sneak up on them and they were by a ledge, you could just straight up shield bash them over the ledge. It was satisfying.
Well,
to
think
say the
about it
least.
too. What happened to the previous Robin? He got killed.
Right.
So obviously Batman's got to take some safety precautions to make sure that this Robin doesn't get killed in an easy way. So
Right.
Yeah.
And he gives him a shield. He's like, look, if you're stealthing around, your shield's probably going to slow you down, but we don't know what's going to happen out there.
Yeah.
And these guys got guns, so just have this. Yeah. So I like that, and I just feel like not Red Robin, but Tim Drake as Robin sort of aptly answered the question, why would Batman take on more Robins at that point? I feel like I buy him in that scenario.
2 full checks for me. I have no.
Yeah, no,
I have
I'm-
no qualms.
Right.
I'm back in the Tim Drake train.
Yeah!
Which
Back that D! The Drake!
Listen, but ladies and gentlemen,
Forget the first D, the OD, the original D. The Dick. Let's go with the Drake.
The Drake. Well, and honestly, don't think that we're just going to be giving blanket ovations.
Yeah.
Because our next one.
Right, I feel like we just...